Welcome to Crack Pack. My name is Andrew, and today we're cracking open Thrones of Eldraine. Let's get cracking. Our first card today is a rat token, followed by plains for a land. Then we have Midnight Clock, which for 2 and a blue is an artifact that can tap to add a blue, or you can pay 2 and a blue to put an hour counter on Midnight Clock. At the beginning of each upkeep, you put an hour counter on Midnight Clock, and then when the 12th hour counter is put on Midnight Clock, you shuffle your hand and graveyard into your library, then draw 7 cards and exile Midnight Clock. We did crack one of these, I want to say about 2 weeks ago. Might have been a little bit longer at this point. And like I said then, this is a temporary mana rock, which is fantastic. Getting, sure it is only blue, but getting even a few turns of extra mana acceleration is going to be great. And then this is also a great reset for you, right? It lets you just shuffle everything back together except for whatever you have on the battlefield. Shuffle it all back together and start over. So this actually, now that I've given it some thought, would be fantastic in a self-mill type deck, because you're going to be throwing so much into the graveyard. This then lets you kind of start over and have even more chances to mill, which, if you are doing it right, is going to really, really hurt your opponent, because if you're going self-mill, you're probably also milling your opponent, or you have a reason for getting, like, you have payoffs for cards entering the graveyard. And so if you're going through your entire library and then going through it a second time, that is going to be very painful in some way, shape, or form. So I really, really like the kind of avenues of play that opens, and now that I've thought of them, I'm going to try to make something like that, self-mill and reset with Midnight Clock. If you've seen that done, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear about how that went or how that worked, if you were the one building that deck. And also, if you'd like to see a deck tech of whatever I come up with for a self-mill deck that resets with Midnight Clock, let me know in the comments below. Next we have Cauldron Familiar, Turn into a Pumpkin, All That Glitters, Lochthwain Paladin, Dwarven Mine, Wicked Guardian, Bloodhaze Wolverine, Outmuscle, Weaselback Redcap, True Love's Kiss, Fling, Mistford River Turtle, and Outflank to round out the pack. Now, today's Pack 1 Pick 1. I'm going to go with Cauldron Familiar. For a black, it is a 1/1 creature. Reads, when Cauldron Familiar enters the battlefield, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And you can sacrifice a food to return Cauldron Familiar from your graveyard to the battlefield. So this is going to scream food synergies, which is a huge theme in this set, and you will very easily find ways to create food tokens for Cauldron Familiar to eat and return to the battlefield with. This is just a nice alternative use for food tokens, basically, which already were a pretty good value at 2 mana to gain 3 life. That's decent, but having other uses for them is better, such as getting a creature back that every time it ATBs drains your opponent. So what you're going to be looking for is ways to sacrifice Cauldron Familiar so that you can then sack a food to get it back and continually drain your opponents. And one way you could do this at least once a turn was with Witch's Oven, which made you, you tapped the oven to sacrifice a creature to create a food, which then you could sacrifice that food to bring back the sacrificed Cauldron Familiar. Do that once a turn with a Witch's Oven. But there are other ways you could do it too. Like you just need a sacrifice outlet and a food generator, and this is set. So that's what this is screaming, is find ways to make food and either swing in with this and let it die, or find ways to get this to die, or sacrifice it. So yeah, Cauldron Familiar is my pick 1. There are other great cards in this pack though, so if you have a different pick 1 than me, let me know in the comments below. But that's all for today, so thank you for cracking along with me. Be sure to check back tomorrow to crack open another pack.